Ladies and gentlemen, first, let me thank you all for the tremendous turnout today. Many of you have traveled hundreds, and as I found out this morning, thousands of miles to honor our brother, Sergeant Steve Owen. The outpouring of support from not only our law enforcement family, but from the community we serve has been truly humbling and a source of strength for Steve's family and our station personnel. My name is Pat Nelson. I am the unit commander for Lancaster Sheriff Station. Lancaster Station polices 600 square miles, provides services to nearly 200,000 residents, and has been home for Sergeant Owen for the past 24 years. Steve came to us from Linwood Station in 1992. I had the opportunity to work patrol with him way back in the day, and I can tell you that while assigned to Lancaster, he worked a variety of assignments from patrol to detectives, and ultimately as the sergeant for the LANCAP team. The one constant has always been Steve's enthusiasm for seeking out those who would do our community harm. He was a tireless patrol deputy, a relentless investigator, and the consummate sergeant. He truly loved his team and his community. Like many of our personnel, Sergeant Owen called Antelope Valley his home. He was a loving husband to his wife Tanya, and a tremendous father to his children Chad, Brandon, and Shannon. But he was also a coach, a friend, a mentor to so many other members of our community. And I'm proud to say that he's been my friend for over 20 years. We will all miss him terribly. Steve, or Bullfrog as he was affectionately known, was taken from us by an evil predator on October 5th. I cannot adequately express the loss we are experiencing. However, it is easy to see today his sacrifice was not in vain. The level of support and the outpouring of prayer from the community has been unlike anything I've witnessed in my 33 years with the Sheriff's Department. Steve will not be forgotten. Godspeed. And I just want to add that I've been extremely proud of Lancaster Station's response to this terrible, terrible tragedy. And with that, I would like to introduce the Sheriff of Los Angeles County, Jim McDonald.
Well, good morning. And it's an honor to be with all of you here today to celebrate the life of Sergeant Steve Owen. We are a family in law enforcement, a family like no other. Today we come together to celebrate a life well led. Sergeant Steve Owen. Steve was and always will be larger than life. Those who knew him understood that his capacity to serve others knew no bounds. Sergeant Owen had the qualities of a religious man, maybe a priest, a minister, a rabbi, or someone who took vows to serve mankind. He fed the hungry, he clothed those who needed it, and Steve Owen comforted the traumatized. Yet Steve was a hard-working street cop. Taking a bad guy to jail was his motto. That was his way of making the community a little safer for everyone else. But he didn't look for numbers of arrests or citations or anything else. He was looking to make an impact, to make a real difference for the people that he felt privileged to serve. And he was exceptionally good at his trade. For 29 years, he served as both deputy and sergeant, patrolling the urban streets, hunting down predators on foot and in a black and white, and he would also search for missing people in remote mountain ranges or lonely deserts, riding on an ATV, horseback, or a motorcycle, working with the Highway Vehicle Enforcement Team. Does anyone remember Steve Owen just sitting in a radio car, hanging out like everyone else? Steve Owen's life, how he lived, how he worked, is why we're gathered here today. On behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, thank you to all of you for your prayers, your support for the Owen family, and for your memories of Steve, which have been shared extensively on social media, on television, and in newspapers literally around the world. Thank you for holding the family close, for the hours you stood vigil outside Lancaster Station, or on the numerous freeway overpasses and roadsides, saluting and paying respects as the processional traveled up and down the freeway that carried Sergeant Owen home to the Antelope Valley. Thank you for all those who lit candles, brought flowers, and wrote letters to his family or to our deputies. The magnitude of today's memorial service is just one indication of the exceptional impact that Sergeant Steve Owen made on the entire Antelope Valley community. There are thousands in attendance today and many more watching via the internet and on live television to pay their respects to Steve. Governor Brown and Attorney General Kamala Harris have joined us here as well today, as well as personnel from over 65 law enforcement agencies traveling from as far away as New York to personally offer their condolences. But I'd like to take this moment to say to Steve's wife Tanya, his daughter Shannon, his sons Brandon and Chad, and his mother Millie, as well as his brother David, to the entire Owen family, what I'm about to share is for you. We are here for you to honor your husband, father, and brother. This man apparently had so many nicknames, I started losing count as I heard throughout the week. Reporters called him a lovable bear of a man. At work, he was known as the Bullfrog, the God Frog, or as an extension of that, the Frog Father. To his deputies, he was affectionately called Sarge. To many of us, he was simply known as Owen. His deputies describe his experience, professionalism, and command presence with the kind of reverence reserved for legendary departmental leaders. Here's what his own deputies had to say. Sarge was the kind of man who walked into a room and commanded instant respect. No matter what he asked, we would do it, because we knew if Sarge was in charge, everything would be okay. That kind of leadership is what the Lancaster Community Appreciation Program, or LANCAP, needed. LANCAP is the special problems team that everyone calls on for help with a variety of responsibilities, from helping our gang unit, Operation Safe Streets, with search warrants, to saturation patrols, to working the Antelope Valley Fair. All the deputies knew Sergeant Owen had a big say about which deputies had the character to be selected to join the LANCAP team. They knew from the start of their assignment that their work ethic would qualify them for the team, and a poor work ethic would get them kicked off very quickly. It's that kind of clarity about mission that prepared Steve Owen to devise the plan that safely rescued a hostage who was being held at gunpoint. He received the Meritorious Conduct Medal in 2013 for that operation, which required superior tactical skills and experience and the ability to be able to instill confidence in his team when they only had one chance to get it right. If you ask his deputies, they would say Sarge was always at work. Steve's family would say he was always with them, a loving father through his 3 kids, a devoted husband, and a man committed to serving his community on and off the clock. In fact, to numerous people in the Antelope Valley community, Sergeant Owen was the most well-known deputy in the AV. He was famous for mentoring youth, coaching football at Paraclete High School, and always thinking of those in need, and then taking action to do something to help. The only way to explain this is to say Steve Owen, for him, work was not work. Work was life, and life was work. It was one and the same. It's as if he knew that public service was what he was born to do. Tanya taught self-defense classes to women throughout the northern part of the county using the Rape Progression Defense, or the RAD program as it was known. Steve helped her. He gladly wore the red man suit named for the red protective padding. He allowed literally more than 1,000 women to demonstrate their newfound self-defense skills by pummeling him repeatedly. He was not afraid of a little pain to be able to help try and keep others safe. As you might guess, Steve and Tanya met on the job at the Sheriff's Department. As she tells the story, it was love that grew from the respect of working together as partners on the gang enforcement team to becoming partners in life. Although apparently things didn't start with love at first sight. Unbeknownst to Steve or Tanya, at the time, both had initially gone to their sergeant to request to work with different partners. He told them, "You don't get to pick your partners, go figure it out." And so they did. In fact, when their fellow deputies noticed Steve offering to help Tanya write reports, the entire station knew he was done. Steve Owen was in love. Their love for their kids, as well as children in need, led to their work with the Sheriff's Explorer program. The Sheriff's Explorer program was near and dear to Steve, where he served as a longtime advisor. Sergeant Steve Owen, by the way he lived, made incremental but life-altering changes in the lives of so many others. Because of Steve Owen's mentorship, a teenager he arrested for marijuana grew up to be a man with a steady job and family. Because of Steve, a young Explorer Scout, and so many others, chose a career in law enforcement and are realizing their dreams of becoming a deputy sheriff. Because of Steve, there were children in need who received toys at Christmas or a pair of shoes when they were on the verge of going to school barefoot. Perhaps because of the courage, commitment, and compassion of Sergeant Steve Owen, we as a nation have the opportunity to be able to lower our voices, raise our sights, and conduct a meaningful conversation about the role of law enforcement and community outreach. And for that, I'm humbled and grateful. It's been a rough week for law enforcement in Southern California. I'm sure you all join me in offering our thoughts and prayers to the Palm Springs Police Department, who lost two of their finest over the weekend, Officer Gil Vega, who was at the end of his career, and Officer Leslie Zarebny, who was just beginning the start of hers. There are unknown dangers inherent in every call for service. And then there's the everyday commitment each of us here make to protect our public. The life and death of Steve Owen exemplifies the very best in policing, as well as the inherent risks of this honorable profession. In our community, Sergeant Steve Owen put a name and a face on this type of tragedy. His loss of life and the performance of his duty has brought forth an overwhelming outpouring of support from the communities that we serve. It helps to put into perspective the experiences we've all had over the past couple of years doing our job. The criticism of our efforts across the country are more memorable than the success of the good work underway every single day. Sergeant Steve Owen was and continues to be in our hearts the best of us in law enforcement. And for Steve, his family, and our public, we'll continue to hold ourselves to that high standard. We have deputies out there coaching and mentoring, many because of Steve's example. There are people, fathers, mothers, daughters, sons, who wear the badge, who go out there and answer calls because whenever something goes wrong in life, people call 911 and the police respond. Every 61 hours in America, a police officer is killed in the line of duty because they and their families chose a profession that puts them between harm and the public whom we serve. I've known so many families who've lost loved ones in the line of duty. My heart bleeds every time when I see the work that's being done, the intent of the work being done by police officers across America, and then to see the way it's being portrayed. Let us commit ourselves today and every day to try and make the world a better place. That's what Steve Owen would do. Let us leave here today and pledge to keep alive Steve's legacy of character, competence, and compassion. Take time to listen to a child in need. Spend time serving and doing what you can for the homeless. And yes, for those of us who wear the badge, take the